Alright, hey Algebra 1. We are going to take some notes for our notebook today because of our lovely, lovely snow days. So we need to talk about solving absolute value equations. So what is an absolute value? An absolute value measures the distance a number is from 0. And the big thing there is distance, because distance can never be negative. Generally speaking, absolute values can never be negative. So that's our definition. We don't need to write it again. So one major factor characteristic is that the absolute value of a number equals a positive number. An absolute value looks like two vertical bars. So that's another characteristic. So an example of absolute value would be like the absolute value of 4 equals 4. The absolute value is like another operation, kind of like addition. I have to do the absolute value of something, and then it equals something. So the absolute value of 4 is 4. So you don't actually do very much there. Or the absolute value of -7 is 7. Now, if I had the absolute value of -10 with a negative out front of the absolute value, again, an absolute value is an operation. You do what it says. So the absolute value of -10 is 10, but then there's a negative out front. So this actually is -10, which is why I said the absolute value, like generally speaking, is always positive. I did take the absolute value of -10, and it is 10. However, there's like a -1 being multiplied by that absolute value. So maybe a non-example would be if I had the absolute value of 5 and you made it -5. That is not what the absolute value does. A lot of people just think it switches signs, and it doesn't do that. So what we need to look at is solving for absolute values. So that's when x is in the absolute value. If you think backwards, again, the absolute value is the distance from 0. So I want to know when I'm 4 units away from 0. I think the obvious answer is 4, because that's 1, 2, 3, 4 units. So x could be 4. But I think -4 is also 4 units from 0. So x could also be -4. So because our absolute value always gives us 2 answers, we will always be solving 2 equations for the absolute value. So here's some steps for solving success. Step 1, get absolute value bars alone. And what I mean by that is the absolute value bars, there could be some stuff inside of them, but the bars are by themselves on one side of the equal sign. Everything else is over on the other side, so like a number is over here. After that, to get rid of your absolute value, solving is all about getting rid of. If I want to get rid of add, I subtract. If I want to get rid of absolute value bars, I need to make 2 equations. So drop absolute value bars and make 2 equations. My 2 equations should be whatever was in the absolute value bars, one of which is equal to a positive number, so whatever number was over here, the other is equal to the negative of that number. And I know that seems a little bit weird right now, but when we do one, I think you'll see it's very easy. And then we just solve like normal. So we solve each equation on its own, get 2 answers, and then you should check them. Because like in this case, because I have 2 answers, it could be that one of those or both of them aren't real answers. So we have to check our answers here. So for example, this first one, my absolute values are already alone there. There's nothing outside of them that I need to get rid of. So step 1 I can skip. So I drop the absolute value bars and I make two equations. So I get x minus 4 and x minus 4. One of those equations is equal to a positive number, so I have positive 8. The other is equal to a negative number, so I have negative 8. And if you think about that, that's exactly what we did up here. When we were solving for x, we said that x had to equal 4, or it had to equal negative 4. So now we're just saying more than that. This stuff on the inside has to equal 8, or that same stuff has to equal negative 8. Then we just solve each one. So we add 4. X is 12. Add 4. X is negative 4. So those are my two answers. They should both work. If you check them, I'll leave you to do that. Example 2. There's lots of stuff outside of our bars this time. So first we have to get rid of add or subtract. There's just plus 4, so I'm going to subtract 4. Then I have 5, absolute value x plus 1 equals 10. Now the thing is, I know a lot of you probably want to distribute that. However, you can't distribute over absolute value bars. You have to get rid of that 5. If I was to distribute it, that would mean I'd be multiplying. So instead of multiplying by that 5, I'm going to divide by that 5 to get rid of it. So we'll have absolute value of x plus 1 equals 2. Now my bars are alone. Now I make my two equations. So x plus 1 equals 2, or x plus 1 equals negative 2. Solve each one on its own, so we subtract 1, so x is 1. Subtract 1 on the other side, so x is negative 3. Two answers. Okay, on the inside. Ah, it's upside down. So, really quickly, I'm going to change this over here to a negative 9, or to a 9 rather, so that we get a better looking answer so we don't have to deal with fractions. So I'm going to do this one last example, solving with no solution. I'm going to leave example 2 for you down here to try. And then the solving with an inequality we're going to save. And we'll do that together. Alright, so we put in our line. We need to get our absolute value bars alone. It's not alone. So I'd first have to get rid of addition, so I subtract. So we'll have 3 absolute value 2x plus 9 equals negative 3. Now, just like with the last one, there's that 3 out front, so I'm going to have to divide that away. And so I'll have absolute value of 2x plus 9 equals negative 1. Now that my absolute value bars are alone, we make our two equations. I'm going to make one over here just because I'm running out of room, and one over there. So we say 2x plus 9 equals negative 1, and also 2x plus 9 equals positive 1. And then we solve each one. So we subtract 9, 2x equals negative 10, divide by 2, so x is negative 5.
Andrew Ragland, please go to the guidance office.
That's annoying. Anyways, solving the other problem, we'll subtract 9. So 2x equals negative 8 divided by 2. So x is negative 4. Now, we haven't been with the other ones checking our answers. I'm going to show you how you should be checking them here. You should be checking them every time. So we go all the way back. I'm going to check this answer right here. Go all the way back to the beginning. 3 absolute value of 2 times x, which I think is negative 5, plus 9, plus 12, and then it's a question. Does that equal 9? So we do this right in order. Negative 5 times 2 is negative 10, plus 9 is negative 1. Absolute value of that is 1. Times 3 is 3, plus 12 is not 9. So that is not an answer. Hopefully negative 4 is, so we'll go back and check negative 4. So we take 3, absolute value, 2 times negative 4, plus 9 plus 12. Does that equal 9? Well, 2 times negative 4 is negative 8, plus 9 is 1. Absolute value of 1 is 1 times 3 is 3, plus 12, again, is not 9. So this is also not an answer. So this problem here has no solution. And truthfully, there was a point in the problem where I knew that was going to happen before I even got to the end. Right at this part right here, when we were solving, when we said that the absolute value of something was equal to negative 1, I knew that that was wrong because the absolute value bars can never be equal to a negative number. Alright, so I'm going to let you guys try example 2, and we'll save the rest for Tuesday. Have a good weekend.